You're listening to the Renegade Blitz. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. And subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
All right, it's the Renegade Blitz podcast. It's a, well, not really emergency podcast, but I guess for a lot of Steelers Nation, they would consider this an emergency podcast. It's official. Matt Canada will be the offensive coordinator for the 2023 football season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm Ty Polk with Chris Ward and Brandon Walker. There's a lot of boo-hoo about it. There's a lot of hullabaloo. There's a lot of, I'm upset about this. And look, full disclaimer, I'm not pleased about it as well. But if this is about seeing if Kenny Pickett is the real deal before they decide to either A, get an offensive coordinator that will put him up into what we believe is closer to the upper echelon, we'll see what happens from there. Or if Kenny Pickett's not the guy and they have to go find another quarterback, you have to start fresh. It's better that it's with the guy that he came in with, the guy that kind of sort of recruited him at Pitt before he left. So it's not the news that I necessarily want to hear. It's not the news that obviously Steelers fans don't want to hear. It's not news that they'll accept, but I'm going to accept this for the sole benefit of trying to figure out, is Kenny Pickett the one? He's got the traits, he's got things that you can like, but there's got to be a definitive yes or no.
Okay. I guess it's my turn as the reporter. I've heard that he was going to come back all along, no matter what. He helped himself. Well, Kenny Pickett saved his hide with those two fourth quarter touchdown drives late in the year, and then going 7-2. But like Steve Smith said, this offense is Saturday-ish. It's Canada dry. When I gave one of my colleagues a Canada Dry soda as a response to Twitter. Pay attention. You take a look at that. But his offenses are mid, super mid, mid, and the middest of the mid. And he's probably from the Midwest, so I'm not sure, but it's all mid.
Yeah, actually, he's from Indiana.
Well, yeah, that explains his offense. Mid and Canada Dry. But I've seen like some games in that press box, you could have used it. You would have fell asleep. I don't like this, like that Saints game, which I described on the Blitzburg as mid MJF style. I almost fell asleep watching that offense, and they won the game. So what Mike Tomlin probably needs to do is hire a passing game coordinator. He needs to pass it. We have said that before on this podcast, but the Steelers being the Steelers, I guess they are concerned. I guess they are content right now to be in that quagmire of mediocrity and trying to be relevant in game 17, which no, we ain't trying to do that. You have the horses to do it. Do it. And also, they could use changes in play calling, all that, adult in the room, offensive line. Okay, this year, Canada Dry, you have no excuses. And you will not be called Matt Canada. You will be referred to as Canada Dry until you prove otherwise.
Yeah, there's a lot to impact with the whole Matt Canada coming back. If you follow the Blitzburg Twitter page, I've been on there, but mostly Zach's been on there a lot. He's been going hard on this whole Matt Canada thing. He finds it as like a malpractice of coaching for Tomlin to keep Matt Canada, like that's like you mentioned, Brandon. That's the big thing with me is Canada's passing game. I just don't like. You tell us from you're in the press box. What do you see from like his route concepts and stuff? Like they're pretty basic from what I got.
Basic. It's so basic. Like I know Kenny Pickett. Hopefully he's going to be better at seeing the field better next year. But God, dog, it's just like, what are you doing? What is these route concepts? And like, it's like so basic. Like you can defend all of it. Like we even see it. We're laughing. I'm like, yep. It looks like we're going to have that drinking game for the Canada Dry drinking game for the next year, all year.
Yeah. Especially like that quick rollout. That's like you see that in high school football where you're just trying to get a guy out in the flat.
No, that was Kenny Pickett's entire thing kind of in college. Like even in the seasons before he took off, that rollout was his specialty. Like that was one of the things that they did to get him into a rhythm. I mean, that's just it's all about making a quarterback comfortable. And Mark Caboli did put out there's this possibility. If the team performed under expectations offensively, and that would be the statement if they would have fired Canada. If it was a basic offense designed to be basic for a quarterback to learn it, then that's the reason why they're keeping Canada. No matter what, I don't know what to say about that because, man, we've all covered high school football the last year, some as writers, some as commentators. I had a stretch in which I did both. But I remember thinking, I can't really like guess what's happening. I'm not Tony Romo out there as an analyst, but you kind of knew whenever you watched a team. There was one game in which I seen the offensive coordinator on the sidelines basically do a punch. And if I would have got the chance, I would have said, okay, this is going to be an inside slant. And it was exactly that for a pass. It felt like at times I knew what was the next call for the Steelers. And that's been a thing that everyone wants to say it's the Canada thing. It was a thing with Fichtner.
No, yeah, this is a little thing because I was guessing what they was going to do in the press box at that Cleveland game. I'm like, okay, Ray. This is let's see. Chelsea's coming in the game. Miles Williams, jet sweep. You can almost guess what that is. Gentry comes in the game, tight end screen. Like, bruh, that's just like. I don't even know if I can blame Canada for. I think this is more of a Tomlin thing. Because I think this is more of a Tomlin offense than a Canada offense. If you really think about it,
it's pretty basically his first hire. Like if because Arians, he was on staff already. Todd Haley, that was Art Rooney II made that decision. To protect Ben and everything, and then. Fichtner, I guess you could technically say Tomlin promoted him, but you all know Ben was in his ear to get that done. So, and then I think Canada, like I know Ben was still there and everything, but I think Tom was like, yeah, like Ben's this is going to be his last year anyway. So, we have to look for the future quarterback mobility and everything. And that was supposed to be Canada's. Like he has some good running schemes. Like I know people get on the jet sweep and stuff, but he has some good misdirection. Schemes and everything, and they did improve the run game in the second half of the season. But it goes back to the passing concepts and everything. To me, like I don't know if he could develop Pickett and the whole, have the Steelers become an elite passing team again. But just look at all the 8 teams in the playoffs that are left right now, and look at their coordinators and their schematics compared to the Steelers and Matt Canada's. It just seems like they're like I tweeted today, like the Steelers are. At all the elite teams that are left right now, they're playing, chess while the Steelers are playing checkers right now. It seems like.
Yeah, and the one thing is, I will say, if there's one thing about Matt Canada's offense, at least there was issues with the goal line, and I think that was one of the reasons why Fichtner was gone. Goal line offense, other than play calling and just situational things, Once they're on the one, that's where the offense actually.
That's their money. That's their money.
That's their money. So I will say, as we sat here on this podcast 2 years ago saying, how can this team not score on 1st and goal from the one? I'll say this, Matt Canada, well done. Well done. Because he does handoffs with Derek Watt from a tight end position. It's all interesting stuff. The problem is you want to see that extend out and offensively. I mean, there's one account that I want everyone to follow. It's at Honest NFL. He showed some next level concepts from Doug Peterson. And you could tell that that's a guy that offensively he gets it. He played as a quarterback in this league, and he sat behind the ultimate oracle for NFL offense in Andy Reid, both as a player and then as a coach. There's a reason why Trevor Lawrence took a quantum leap in year 2, and I can see why Steelers fans want to do that, because effectively an offensive coordinator for the Steelers is basically the head coach.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that has to be improved with this. There's pluses. There is pluses, but it's hard to be sated by the running game when you see quarterbacks, though, even though Josh Allen could say that he didn't have probably his best game by his standards. Trevor Lawrence, even though he had 4 touchdowns, he also threw 4 picks, 3 to Asante Samuel Jr. And you then look at Brock Purdy, a fellow rookie with Kenny Pickett, and you sit there and go, how come Kenny Pickett can't throw to receivers that are open for 5 or 7 yards on each side? How come that can't be something, and you want that because you know that there's a fighting chance that Kenny Pickett can make those plays just like Brock Purdy?
Right. Well, the point is this. You have to have an offensive mind. Like you just said, Ty, the offensive coordinator right now for the Steelers is basically the head coach, and that is maybe a problem with Tomlin. Tomlin wants to be the man. Tomlin wants to,
I bet the offensive coordinator basically runs the offense.
Runs the offense, but no, Tomlin wants to run the offense.
But also, you could put a part in there. You have to wonder. I know that everyone goes into the defensive side for Tomlin because he does the signals, and we'll never see that on any NFL films thing. But he has input on the offense.
Of course, he does. He just does. He acts like he doesn't want to. He acts like he doesn't want to act like he wants to control the offense, even though he actually is overseeing Matt Canada as the head coach. But he just wants to hide it and just. But we all know who's the man on the Steelers, and it is Tomlin about the offensive side of the ball and the defense. And I'm thinking of one thing. I'm actually more upset that Danny Smith is still here. He has been at the age of retirement for over 10 years. His unit is horrible.
I think his return defense, and largely the fact that any good play from the return team is typically harmed by a penalty, is a bad thing. But lately he's been able to get guys that can block kicks, which is an important facet for anything. Everyone thinks about the returns, but if you can also basically make kickers think about this guy's coming for that helps. And
part of that is having an elite talent like a Minka Fitzpatrick playing special teams on your punt block,
or Miles Killebrew, who's been big in a lot of these situations as well.
Yeah, that too.
Elite talent does help, but he has to put him in there somehow, and he has to coordinate him. I just have to say that returning has to be better. I can't even remember the last time. Well, it was Deontay Johnson against Arizona as a rookie in 2019. And was the last return for a touchdown by a Steelers.
Steven Smith broke a couple and almost made it.
Yeah, but in terms of touchdown, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
returning defense has to be improved by a ton, and with all the talent they have there, Boykins can do something. Killebrew, as we mentioned before, they even have Derek Watt. If you're gonna have him out there as a fullback, if you're gonna say it's nepotism, at least make sure he does well with return defense. Even Snell can do something as well.
Hold up. Yeah, I know it's crazy. Let's talk free agency. So what do you think is going to happen in free agency? What do you think they need? Who do you think they should target?
Tremaine Edmonds. But I don't know the financial part of it, but they could really use it.
He's not leaving the Bills. I don't know why people think that. They'll franchise him.
And then he'll replace Devin Bush.
I know. I don't know if you guys have been seeing this, but Titans offensive tackle Taylor Lewan has been linking himself to the Steelers much in a more open way compared to the covert way of a certain linebacker that will not be named on this podcast because for fear of retaliation. But I mean, anyone that shows
what? What's he gonna do? He ain't gonna do shit.
No, exactly. I was exactly what I was going for right there. So that's one person, but honestly, in terms of the free agency,
I'm gonna ask you,
I'm not going to ask you. I shouldn't have even mentioned it. That's my fault.
I'm not. Hold up, bro. Can you let me talk?
I don't want you to go.
I ask you because I asked Chris the other day. The free agents that they're going to keep on defense. It's a yes or no. Who would they keep on their free agency? All right. Cameron Sutton, stay or go?
Stay.
Yes, yeah, no brainer.
Terrell Edmonds.
Stay, I think.
Stay, but another one or 2 year deal.
We'll skip this one. Robert Spillane.
Oh, I think he's gonna stay, but I mean, he did pretty good at the end of the season. I know I'm always getting on Spillane, but I have to give him.
If he gets a good offer, let him go. But if not, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't sleep over it.
Like, this guy reminds me of a guy named, and I'm not trying to compare him to bring the Redskins Commanders. Just listen, hear me out. Every year, it seems like there's this safety that the Washington then Redskins had. His name was Reed Dowdy. About 10 years ago that they had. Every year, they always tried to replace him. Always try to bring this free agent, try to draft this guy, try to do this, that. At the end of the year, for 5-6 years running, he was a starting safety. He was the best defensive back that they had. He reminds me of him.
Just a zombie won't stay down.
Won't stay down.
Fair.
All right. Larry Ogunjobi, stay or go?
I think he's gonna go, but I wouldn't be opposed to him staying.
He's going to be a part of the Ravens because he gets passed around by a blunt to every AFC North team. Okay. Malik Reed.
Gone.
Go.
Chris Wormley.
Gone.
I was going to say something, but I'm going to pass on that.
I think if he wants another cheap deal.
It's not about you. It's not about Wormley. It's about a certain other outlet.
No, but I was going to say if Wormley wants another cheap deal, because let's face it, the Steelers only signed him to that 2-year deal because they thought Alulu was going to be gone.
DeMonte KZ.
Stay. I want him here.
Me too.
Yeah, I think you get him on a cheap deal. I mean, depending if Edmonds leaves, definitely he's going to stay there.
You got to keep one of them.
Yeah.
I would say this guy needs to just find his life's work. I'm not going to name names, but Carl Joseph.
No, he's injured.
Well, that experiment went out the door. We've been wanting that guy for a while, and it never materialized. He might get a camp body contract, but I don't expect him to be on the team by the end of training camp. Not at all.
Yeah. I'm
Who else
trying
you
to
got?
find the offensive people. I just had the defense first, but I'm guessing you don't. So you're guessing Tyson Alu should just go and return, enjoy his retirement.
Yeah, go see his son kill it in high school football.
Yeah,
And the other person was your boy, Ty.
Yeah, he's out of here. For your sake, he's out of here. he's already pitched his tent out.
And guess
He's
no,
already going to the next town. He's already trying to find his services. So
did we talk about some of those tweets he made?
No, we're not going to talk about him. We're not going to talk about him. We're going to talk about him. But I'll put it to you like this. Devin, Godspeed, Devin Bush.
But hold on.
I wish you nothing more than happiness in your next endeavor.
Yes, it probably won't be, but he might be playing. He will get a contract in the NFL next year. But
he's a first round pick.
Someone's going to kick him fired. I will freaking blow my cast if he goes to one team, and it fits in the description of what type of coach he has. And I'm like, oh no, he better not.
Who is this, may I ask? Because I was saying Tennessee.
He better not go there. I swear to God.
That seems
Tennessee is apparently
That seems like a Washington type of signing. Devin Bush.
Over 10th overall. That, man.
That seems like Dan Snyder's last hurrah right there. As a final spite to Brandon, the Commanders signed Devin Bush to a 2-year deal.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the offense. Zach Gentry, stay or go?
Stay.
I think Connor Hayward coming up makes it a go, but he might be around there. How good was he as a blocking tight end?
I don't know.
I think Hayward was actually pretty good from what I saw.
Yeah. Hayward got big catches, and I think they want to make him a thing.
You know who actually struggled at times with blocking? Freiermuth.
Don't say that.
I'm just saying.
I know.
I saw some clips, man.
I know. I seen it. All right. Derek Watt, would you bring him back? Let him go?
I think Canada likes him, but he probably makes too much for like. I mean, he did good. They finally started giving him the ball, but I think he goes. I think here's the caveat, because Hayward was put as like that H-back, fullback, tight end thing, and I'm sure they want to use him more. If they still like Gentry, I could see Hayward slotting in as the fullback in thoughts only, basically.
They can't keep all three. I could just say that.
Yeah.
Miles Boykin.
Special teams demon, yeah.
I would too. I like you could be able to draft somebody, but you might need a solid veteran presence.
If you see Anthony Miller, he's already good.
All right.
He's already here.
He's making $2.75 million. That price has to come down a little bit for me. Benny Snell.
No, I think he had a good game against the Colts, but I think Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, I like that 1-2 punch there.
Unless they want to keep him as another special teams demon.
They could do that, but you could probably draft somebody who can do that too. So I would say this. I probably know the answer to this. Marcus Allen.
No.
Sorry, Brandon.
No. I'm not going to let y'all just do that to this kid. This kid has been he's a good kid. He stabilizes the special. He's a good people might not like his music, but the
Giants are doing it too, so it's an everyone thing now.
Yeah, whatever. But he brings the memes to the locker room. Who am I kidding? Yeah, he's got to go. I can't even defend that. But hold up, had he not did what he did in that Carolina game, would y'all be thinking the same way?
Yeah, I didn't think he never really did anything that was like blew me away, really.
Yeah, you can draft somebody. Probably there's a couple.
You want a money backer? You can go get it in a draft, and you can teach him. You can teach him from scratch. I think at this point, KZ is the one that takes him out for me. If KZ didn't exist, I'd say maybe.
All right. Yeah, this guy. We already know the answer to this question. He ain't coming back ever. And I'm talking about Mason Rudolph. He just needs to go.
Yeah, he's probably already out of
It's a nice backup spot. Yeah. Backup quarterback.
He can finally get moved on to Detroit like we all thought he was going to.
Yeah.
Be the bridge quarterback to the bridge quarterback.
Yeah, bridge quarterback. Jesse Davis and Trent Scott, who are these linemen? I never even knew who they were. So, hey, draft a couple linemen that you have use for Steelers. Probably one in the first and one in probably like the fourth.
Yeah. You didn't mention Mitch Trubisky, but I'm just gonna put it as a courtesy. I think he's out too. But
like I said, the Steelers could use a strong veteran backup quarterback, and who's available? Sean Clifford.
My God, stop with the meme. Stop the cap.
The meme. What are we doing? We can't talk about a playoff game. We should be talking about them in the divisionals, but we can't. So therefore, the memes are here.
Fair. Let's move on. I wanted to talk about the other coordinator situation, possible coordinator situation. The Browns were linked to Brian Flores. Instead, they opted to go with Jim Schwartz, which for us is a victory because I think he helps that defense track another level, and he inevitably gets a coaching position unless whoever the Cardinals have just hired decide to go with Brian Flores, which they should. They probably won't.
As long as that ain't Houston.
No, I don't think
we went ham on them last week.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Chargers. Chargers will be a good spot. I don't know.
We're not getting rid of Staley.
I don't know how this guy still has a job today. That is amazing.
Everyone was so desperate for a new offensive coordinator. They were trying to make Joe Lombardi a thing after this.
What?
I'm sitting here going like, you know well that if that happened to the Steelers, you would be lining up the offensive coordinator for the Steelers to throw them off a bridge somewhere. We have plenty of them to choose for if you're not familiar with Pittsburgh. So let's not put anyone that just has that stink next to their name giving up a 27-0 lead in the playoffs.
I think that was it. I think it was the Staley blew it. Like they played Mike Williams in the meaningless last game, and they lost. For what? But all I know is this: he ain't it. He ain't ready to be a coach. He maybe about 5 years from now, go back to the defensive coordinator ranks, learn a few things. Probably learn under Belichick. No, matter of fact, learn under Nick Saban. Go to the Nick Saban school of go to Alabama and learn from him, and then be a college coach, and then maybe you might get back to being a pro coach one day because you are in over your head on this analytic stuff. It's about blocking, tackling, catching at the end of the day. That's what you got to do. And kick.
Yeah.
So what do you think about, I mean, there's like a lot of games to recap of, and it's already Wednesday, but what do you think about, this past week's games and like the upcoming divisional round, NFC East, 3 teams in the final 8, Brandon, or the final 4 in the NFC. I don't know how you feel.
Yes.
Out there, first time since the division reshaped and everything. That 3 teams from the same division.
Oh yeah, and guess what? Guess what? The Nittys are going to have a lot to write about this week because of Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, and Michael Parsons.
Yeah.
But then again, we're not talking. This is a Steelers podcast, but they're not going to play another game for another 7 months. So who cares? That's going to go well. That's going to be tough. I have Philly and I have San Francisco coming out of there. And then we got I don't know what the spread for the Jaguars Chiefs game, but I think Jacksonville covers.
Yeah, I haven't looked at any of the spreads or anything like that, but I think this week I was 5-1. I got the Vikings Giants game wrong. I thought the Vikings were going to win, but the Vikings, they've been so unpredictable this year. But I mean,
bro, you never bet on Kirk Cousins, number one. I tried to tell you.
Back down on what, 4th and 8?
And number 2, do you know what the Vikings point differential is this year?
It's negative.
Like -4, and you're.
Yeah.
How do you be 13-4 have a minus point differential?
Yeah, that's pretty
Didn't
crazy.
the Steelers have something pretty similar to that one year?
I don't know. I know they were pretty bad this year. I know the different point differential, but
Well, you get smoked out by a few teams. That happens. If your losses are if the losses that happen to you are blowouts, that happens. But
that was back in October when we thought, or I thought at least, that the Steelers were going to have a top 5 pick. But they got things together and got.
Speaking of which, let's talk about that a little bit because it actually goes into the stat that I wanted to talk to you about. We got all this stuff about the Steelers being, the 9-8 season. Everybody's going, oh, but they beat the NFC South. They're bad. And yes, they are bad. But you want to know what the Steelers, if we're talking about rookie quarterbacks in the Steelers and, bad strengths of schedules, did anyone ever take a look at the strength of schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2004? Anyone?
I don't remember. I mean, they beat the Eagles and Patriots were good teams, but I don't know.
Yeah, hold on, because NFC East that year, besides the Eagles, were mid.
Yeah, Washington wasn't good.
Thank you for saying that. We all know that.
No, the Jets.
The Ravens were 9-7 that year. The Browns were the Browns, and the Bengals weren't ready yet. It was the year before the whole thing, but they went 8-8. I'm
trying to think. They played the AFC East that year.
They beat up New England, and the Jets did make the playoffs that year.
Yeah, they were pretty good that year.
But at least for the 2003 opponents' percentage and record, it was .477 for the Steelers. That was third. Going into the start of last year, it was actually fourth. And also another similar thing, because we're talking about it with Steelers quarterbacks and everything. The Steelers' total air miles traveled in 2004 was 8,534. And I think it was actually less this year for the Steelers. So when you take a look at that, there's a lot of eerily similar things with it. It's a favorable schedule. So this is why, this team wasn't good. You expect it to go around that or even lower. So I think a lot of people are sitting there going look, I don't care about Tomlin's winning season record. From here on out, it's whatever. It was fine 2 years ago, a year ago, even last week. I don't care.
They got to win a playoff game, at least get to that final 8, I think, like divisional round area. I mean, they just making the playoffs and losing is not good enough either. 9-8, that doesn't do anything really, just especially for Steelers standards and everything. I mean, it's just like Brandon says, mid. It's it doesn't do anything. They went 7-2 down the stretch, great and everything. But I mean, they beat some really. I mean, you beat the teams that you play on your schedule. You can't do anything about that. I think Tomlin's experience edges them over some of these other coaches that are pretty awful out there. like Josh McDaniels, like the first one that comes to my mind, but like
Yeah.
I think
when you lose to Jeff Saturday, then yeah,
they beat the Colts with Jeff Saturday. Like it's just Atlanta wasn't all that great. The Saints you mentioned, Brandon. But like they beat Carolina, who was actually not they did play better down the stretch, but they beat the Ravens, but that was without Lamar Jackson too, which is kind of
I mean, I can't get mad at the schedule makers for what it is and when they scheduled a matchup. The same people that get mad over a 9-8 record are the same people that would have been absolutely abhorred over anything under 500. So it's always a lose-lose situation for that guy. The best thing he could do is just go out there and win.
You want to at least get to the playoffs or be on the rise. Like a team like the Jaguars, they're on the rise right now. Even the Lions, like they went 9-8, but where they were at before, they were scoring points and everything. Like the Steelers, like they didn't win like 4 games last year. Like they were 9-7-1, I think it was. Yeah. 9-7-1. So they basically stay the same. So like there's no like they didn't make a big step. Like the Giant fans are really thrilled right now because they were terrible for the last like decade pretty much. And now they have a coach there that's finally like, Daniel Jones is playing good and everything. So there's excitement there. The Steelers, they just feel so like there's no like motivation or like nothing. There's nothing really to be excited about. I feel like. I mean, they have some good.
Well,
the excitement is seeing another year of what Kenny Pickett could be, and if him and Pickens can transform this team back. It's never going to be the Killer Bees. I don't even think it's going to be a Killer Peas situation.
I mean,
if it's a good duo that with a combination of everything else, and that defense is going to be there, especially as long as Flores and I want to also give credit to Terrell Austin because he's a defensive coordinator. He just happens to have the head coach that's defensive minded, and then another coach that should be a head coach in this league that's also defensive minded right there. He has to pull some strings, not a lot. It's a fair weight.
But as long as you have the high end talent that they have on defense, and these rising talent they have on offense, you just got to build. You got to get some solid, a few more solid transformational pieces. One on the offensive line, one at corner, and then now you just got to build depth, because it's the Steelers can win only one way. One way. 13-10, ugly game, all this stuff, unappealing football, boring. You can have
that's not going to get done. That's in 2023. That's not going to get done. I'm telling you right now, Matt Canada, we'll be in the same position next year at this time. We'll be talking.
He'll be fired.
He won't have his contract renewed.
Yeah,
and it'll be a repeat cycle, and it just they wouldn't do anything with it. Like, I think it's a big mistake by Tomlin, the Steelers. Art Rooney II, I think he could have stepped in maybe. Like, this is the thing with the Steelers. They don't like paying coaches when they're not there, which doesn't make sense to me because they have the money. Like, offensive coordinators' salaries it's like only like around $1 million. That's like pocket change for Art Rooney II.
Yeah.
Like, I know like they have a like status quo of like, this is tradition, this is how we do business, but that just doesn't make sense to me.
They're going to have to break their traditions, and it starts with drafting an offensive tackle high. That's one thing, and that's why I'm screaming to the top of the world for Paris Johnson if he's available. I'll take him over Joey Porter Jr. or Jordan Addison.
I agree with you that they need a left tackle.
This is and if you're gonna keep this offensive coordinator, let's at least, and you have the backbone of Andy Weidel, who basically took the Eagles in the trenches and made it into the most dominant trench unit, arguably on both sides of the ball in the league.
Yeah,
it's got to be worth something out there. I mean,
these first two pucks need to be in the be on the offensive defensive line.
Then you can go fill out the rest of it. I know that it's always horrible to leave off a good corner name withstanding for the Steelers. And if you feel that that's the best pick available, I'm not going to be mad at it, but just know that the rest of those 2 picks have to be an offensive lineman. It just
and a defensive line.
I prefer an offensive lineman. I think that they can go find, if it came down to it, they could go find a defensive lineman later. The next thing that we don't mention is probably a middle linebacker for the Steelers. I'm beyond an offensive position that isn't outside of veteran help, because you've convinced me on that, Brandon. I'll say that.
We need an adult, Chris.
So what do you think of the Steelers in 2023? Is it like playoff win or bust, pretty much, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they went 9-8 this season with a rookie quarterback. Or just playoff. I think you got to win a playoff game, at least one playoff.
I think at this point, really, really, for my sanity, I want it to be a playoff win or bust.
That's
preferably, I'd be happy if they'd make it to a divisional.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
and namely, no matter what, here's the thing: if they're gonna lose past the wild card line, past that first game, whatever it is, that next game they cannot get embarrassed. It has to be a good showing.
Yeah. Look, you already got the 4 teams that are playing this weekend are clearly better. They're already ahead of the Steelers right now. So from the rip next year, and then then you got questions in the AFC. So right now I can't be sizing up the rosters. They're at least. I think the Dolphins. The other teams have question marks, because I think the 7 teams that made the playoffs are actually better than the Steelers. The Steelers are just the best of the. They're in the mid.
They're in that Atlanta Hawks zone.
Yeah.
They're stuck there, man. They've been there since, I guess, 2017 when they won 13-3 and got bounced early, but still, I mean, it was a good season.
Here's the thing,
record-wise.
The Cincinnati Bengals, who the Steelers fans just snuff on and all that other stuff, they have more playoff wins since 2010 than the Steelers.
Yeah, the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard looking at a team that has it all together. That has I think we're getting the taste that we've never liked, or at least the taste pre-Ben Roethlisberger that we never liked.
And how they got there is Brandon's favorite strategy is doing the big tank and then getting those top 5 picks, and you got to hit on them. But
here's the thing: you could do the big tank all you want, but then if you end up in a situation like the Commanders, what does it matter?
Yeah, you got to do it right, and you have to have a little bit of luck too. And I think that's what happened with the Bengals is getting that duo with Burrow and Chase.
Everyone wants to copy it with Jordan Addison, and here's the thing: I say this as someone that watched USC games. He did it with a Heisman quality quarterback in Pittsburgh, but he was the main option. I think the thing for Addison was trying to see if he can establish himself in the pack, and because of injury and stuff like that,
yeah,
I don't know.
I was looking at he played 11 games compared to 14 last year. He had 8 touchdowns, but he had 17 last year with Pickett.
It felt like an anonymous 8.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big – that's 9 touchdown difference there.
Yeah.
Like, even though –
better quarterback.
I think he's a better quarterback in Caleb Williams. I could say I like Kenny Pickett as a pro prospect and as a pro quarterback, but I can definitively say right now that Caleb Williams is the better quarterback, at least in college. We'll find out.
There's a lot of quarterbacks that that's Pickett. Give him credit. I like those game-winning drives, the 2 ones he had at the end of the year, but it's his rookie year, and I don't think Matt Canada's that great of a passing, concepts and everything that he has in his offense. But he didn't throw more than 2 touchdowns in a game all year, I think, in a single game. So I'd like to see those numbers progress and everything, but it's hard, like Brandon, you always like to talk about the division core, but Deshaun Watson looked, I know he came in like towards the end, but he looked pretty rough. So I don't know about that, him Pickett being, I guess, Watson, skill wise, we'll have to see how the future holds and everything. But what do you guys think? Where do you think he ranks in the AFC now, or like maybe like depending on the future? Like, do you think he'll get up there with Josh Allen and Burrow and Mahomes, or do you think he'll just be like an average quarterback in the league?
It would take a quantum leap of all quantum leaps for him to do that. Do I think that he could stave around into that area in which he's in 11, 12, 13? Yes.
So looking at that Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins kind of
where it seems like it's going to be the classic pre-Ben Roethlisberger team in which the stars have to align, 1, and 2, the rest of the team has to be really good around them.
Right. And right now it ain't. At least not yet.
What about the Purdy for the 49ers? What do you guys think about that big discussion about, like I know people are saying, oh, he's better than Pickett. He has a lot more talent. What do you guys think about that?
I remember hearing the stat for him. He was 9 of 10 for receivers that were open with more than 5 yards of coverage, something along those lines. And when they were more covered, he was 9 of 20. That's a difference out there. You're not gonna, especially as you get later into the playoffs, teams find those books, man. And Seattle was a good team for a bit, but eventually it all adds up.
Right.
It seems like Seattle. The one thing about Purdy that I say that makes him what I think is in the driver's seat to be the quarterback for San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo hits that long pass to Emmanuel Sanders. We're not even thinking of Trey Lance or Purdy. We're not thinking of those two guys. That's the one thing that San Francisco's offense is accorded on. Can that quarterback hit that wide open guy? And if you're hitting it at 9 to 10, that's a 90% clip. Yeah. You're going to do something. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, so that's what I think. Purdy is, I can't say he's better than Pickett right at this point because, we'll find out on, was it Sunday?
Yeah, I think they play Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday. So, it's about, like you said, Ty, we'll see if he has, when the book's out on him, see what he does. But if you got an offensive mind like Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan.
Mike was a good offensive mind too, though.
Well, you know what I mean. Then you can do some things with a quarterback that can do something, make plays, don't make mistakes. And
C-man, hitman. That's what you want out of Brock Purdy at this situation. I think in even the wildest dream for a San Francisco fan that this is a huge success. And it proves to, one, the entire team structure. Because this, even with Brock Purdy, this is a Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah.
Especially this late. It's easy to say that, but if he's hitting open guys, really all you ask for him to be is to probably creep up those more covered completions. Right. If he hits 4 more of those, I can firmly say that San Francisco might win the Super Bowl. They'll win the Super Bowl. Excuse me.
Last pick in the draft in the whole entire draft. Lead
becomes the first rookie quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
That's crazy. I never heard of him until the season. I never heard of him during the draft.
He was all right at Iowa State.
I seen him a few times at Iowa State. He was pretty good.
He was pretty good.
Yeah. Then the Steelers, they picked Oladokin over him, I think. Yeah, they picked the South Dakota State quarterback.
See,
Yeah, but that never felt like it was a possibility to make that roster.
Yeah.
Even Brock Purdy himself could have been that, and I don't think he was going to make
That's
this
just
roster.
shows you how crazy the draft is. Just it's really.
I thought he would have gotten drafted at least in the mid rounds too. So I was shocked that he made it slip that far.
All right, so that's about all we got here. So this is another playoff podcast. Of course, the Steelers are not in it, but we're still here talking football because, well, that's what we do, right, guys?
Matt Canada is here to stay, at least for one more year.
Hey, don't fret, Steelers fans that want to hire Byron Leftwich, but I know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to turn on him, and at the first thing I see when he officially is the offensive coordinator of this team, if you decide to say you miss Matt Canada, I'm going to go back and find every single tweet. And I am going to basically say that is BS. Stop it.
I don't think
Stop it. You didn't like Todd Haley here either. Don't try to tell me that you thought Randy Fichtner was pretty good. I seen the tweets. I keep the receipts in my mind. I have bookmarks. I will not take any of that stuff with anything. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. He's a bad offensive coordinator, but but you were actually happy to have him. And we even had things on this podcast in which we spoke glowingly about him and his jet sweeps. Quit it. All right, but now it's over as I stopped writing you. But yeah, thanks for tuning in on this podcast. Chris Ward, Brandon Walker, I'm Ty Polk. You've been listening to the Renegade Blitz. Stop playing yourself about Randy Fichtner and the rest of the bunch.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. And subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. The Renegade Blitz podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you can listen to podcasts.